All right, I think we're ready to start. Amalia, you should join us. Okay. I'm happy everyone made it home okay. So, hi everyone. Hi Todd. I'm Sawyer, and this is the state of the Velociraptor. Now, if you follow the YAPC in recent years, you probably noticed that the state of the Velociraptor has morphed and changed. Instead of one single person, me, giving a talk about various projects, we actually have people from different projects giving talks about them. And what I wanted to do in this one is to take it one step further. And instead of just projects, we also wanted to have people from different communities within the Perl community talking about their own communities. And, you know, we all talk about code all the time, and it's programming and it's fun, but eventually it's not just words and it's not just code. It's actually a lot of people. And, you know, Perlmonger is actually a social club after all. So I'd like to start by presenting our first speaker. And our first speaker is a longtime software developer who moved to the UK from Silicon Valley in the 90s and got into Perl and into the community in Europe in 2001. She has spent 2 years leading the London PM from July 2014 to 2016. And her name is Spence.
Hello. I have been to so many of these. It's nice to see all your happy faces after last night's party. Who's hungover? Oh, you guys are better behaved than I thought. 2 years ago, after years of coming to meetings and just organizing the occasional social meet, Tom Hewkins, Tom, are you here? I had a feeling not. Tom said, I need a break. Would you please do this? So I said, great, I'll do this. Why not? London PM, for those who don't know, and I think probably about half of you already know, has been going since about 1998. And it has been meeting regularly since this time. It has, I don't think, ever missed a social meeting in all those years. And it's had anywhere from 1 to 4 or more technical meetings every year, and which is I actually think is quite amazing, considering, because most clubs don't manage that kind of thing. It also has infrastructure. It has a website. It has IRC bots. It has all sorts of crazy service level agreement expectations for all of these things, and I was amazed actually at how much work it was to be London PM leader. So how many people here consider themselves members of London PM, go to any kind of social meeting or technical meeting? That's pretty good. Dave Cross, stand up. This is all his fault. And that guy there was at the first meeting. I don't know if we have anybody else. Steve Minot. I think you two may be the only, probably the longest serving members. Anyway, it's been interesting, I'll just say that. But I did have to throw it back after 2 years. But I learned things from it too, even at my greatly advanced age. And so I'd like to actually thank everybody who's been encouraging, and that includes probably a lot of people in this room that ever go to meetings. It's been great. Thanks very much.
All right. Now, I'd like to invite someone that does not like me talking about him, and I'm going to do it anyway, mostly for spite. He's been involved in several projects kind of under the radar. One of them is the Answer 2, where he's been a core member and pissed off David Golden more than once by trying to immutabilize every possible thing, which is good. And he is now working on MetaCPAN, which some of you might know. And he is willing, and not a lot of convincing, but he's willing to give us a good update on what's going on in the project and how it works and what's happening behind the scenes in MetaCPAN, which is a lot. And I'd like to invite Mickey Nasriachi. That's what happens when you ask someone if they can do something with their computer. Things will move around.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Good morning. My apologies for ignoring all your emails. So this is why it's not according to the format. But I came here to mostly give an update, but also tell you a little bit about MetaCPAN. Quick question. Is there anyone here who doesn't know what MetaCPAN is? I see at least one hand. So MetaCPAN, as most of you know it, is a search engine for CPAN distributions. It also contains a lot of extra information that we index internally. But what not everyone knows is that it basically it's built of two components, two major components, a lot of small ones. There is the web interface, the website. But there's also an API layer that the website is built on top of, and this one is what holds the entire data, the storage, and serving it as a REST API and by itself. And there are a lot of tools that use the API directly, don't even go to the website to fetch data and do other stuff. So what the API is built of is there is a Catalyst application that serves the REST API, and there is an Elasticsearch storage backend that holds all the data and indexes and holds all the index and information for every distribution, every release that is being uploaded to PAWS or shows up on the mirror. To be more precise, there is a big set of tools that does that. So every release that goes into the mirror gets parsed, analyzed, and the data is being inserted into the Elasticsearch backend. Now, what you know as the MetaCPAN production is what we call version 0 of the API, and that one has a very old version of Elasticsearch. By very old, I mean at least 4 years. And this is one of the first releases, in fact, which is very buggy and very slow and missing a lot of features that we would like to have. So in the last few months, I joined the team a couple of months back, and with incredible people that the group consists of, we worked intensively to get an upgrade of the Elasticsearch backend from 0.20 to 2.3, which is the latest stable Elasticsearch. Can anyone guess how many stable releases Elasticsearch had between those two? Any guess? So I counted. If you take out the beta releases, release candidates, and special version that they have for Apache, only stable releases on the normal releases numbering, there are 67 releases in between those two numbers. So you can imagine this was a big, big project. So what does it give us? First, the Elasticsearch backend is now clustered, which is a huge change for us. It means that it's much stabler than version 0, which is unfortunately not as stable as we would like it to be. It has a lot of new features. Just making sure that you're seeing the same slide as I am. A lot of new features that are coming from Elasticsearch 2 directly. There are many improvements, bug fixes I don't even have to mention, and re-indexing, which is something that we really needed and is there, and there are many more. For example, a search suggester, auto-completion suggester that we will use. We haven't used it yet, but it's something that comes with the latest versions of Elasticsearch, and we really want to make use of it because our suggester is customly built and it's not as great as we would like it to be. It is supposed to be faster. It's not yet because of the hardware that we're using for version 1, which is an experimental environment, but it will be because of the improvements in Elasticsearch. Also, to contribute to that, we use the Fastly services for better CDN routing around the world and also caching. There are breaking changes. Now, when you get from 0.20 in Elasticsearch, 67 releases later, you will get some breaking changes because every one of them introduce at least one breaking change. So we're talking about hundreds of breaking changes. For us, this is why it is still not 100% perfect. And of course, it means that if you're using the API directly and you're not going through our official client, then it will break for you. Probably, it's very likely to break for you. And you can use our help if you want to fix those issues. It has stricter mappings. It will not support the get with a body, which makes sense. It will have syntax changes on the Elasticsearch syntax itself, and some features that were actually removed. So some things would just not be there anymore. And there are a lot of improvements, but at the same time, a lot of breaking changes. This is why we have, or in addition to that, we have the client, which is an official client which you can use in order to access the API. The client is now supporting version 1 by just passing it to the object as a parameter. Just tell it, I want version 1, and it will make sure that some of the things that it does internally will suit the version 1. One of them is supporting a new feature that was added recently, which is the download URL index. It's a small thing, but it already makes a change between version 0 and version 1. Version 0 is officially frozen. We're not adding any new features. We're not doing much there. Only critical bug fixes will be done, but at the moment we don't see anything that's supposed to go in there. All new features going to V0 to V1, and by the end of the year we hope to switch and make V1 the production and get rid of V0 altogether. At this point, I'm calling for your help. We need some help from the community, from everyone. First thing that everyone can do is change your bookmarks. If you're using metacpn.org, you are probably. Use version 1. This is the temporary URL for it. Change it on your bookmark and use it. That's the one for the API, if you're using the API directly. Now, the reason I'm asking you for that is because we want you to report any issues to us. You can imagine, like, when you do something that big, how valuable is community help in that testing such an environment is. Ilmari, thank you very, very much for all your contribution on the channel. He's very active on our channel reporting issues, and this is tremendously helping. Thank you very much. I'll buy your beer later. So please do. IRC channel, GitHub, email, anyway. I'll present the channels of communication later. Just reach out to us and tell us about any issue that you find. We will do whatever we can to fix them as soon as we can. If you want to take it one step further and also get involved. We will be very glad if you submit patches. If you see a problem and you can also fix it, wow, that would be awesome. Please do. And if you want to take it one step further, yet again, join the team. We are always looking to bring in people with special skills and people who can contribute. Everyone can contribute if they want to. There are a lot of areas to deal with there. Elasticsearch knowledge is valuable, Catalyst, and anything that we have in our environment. Well, Perl, everyone's a Perl developer. You can contribute to this project. There is a lot of room for changes and a lot of things to solve, and we will be glad to onboard you and help you throughout the process if you want to join a high-profile open source project, which gets a lot of credit as well. So that would be awesome. If you want to reach out to us, these are the channels through GitHub, through IRC, even an email. We will respond to that. But the upper two are the better ways to import it. And that's basically what I have today. So I thank you very much for your time.
All right. So, let me see if I can do this right. Beautiful. Wait, that's not it. There we go. Bam. Okay, seems to work. All right, so after learning Java at university, that's not the right person. What am I saying? No. Did you study Java in the university? You didn't. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong cue card. Okay. Whoever it is, I'm sorry. I mean, for more than one. Okay, never mind. Okay, I remember now. I don't have anything special to say about Todd, so I'm going to embarrass him too. So there is another person. I get to invite a lot of people who I know from behind the scenes doing a lot of work that a lot of people don't get to see. And I'm actually very happy about this. And one of the people that I get to invite here is Todd. And Todd is one of the driving forces behind the Perl conference. He has been to, I don't know how many YAPCs, I honestly don't know. And he's one of the organizers, and he's in charge of so many other things. He's in core, and he contributes to a lot of projects. He's a solid person to talk to and to get ideas from, and on whatever topic it is. And I'm very happy that I've gotten to know him more and more in recent years. And now he's actually only going to talk about one thing, which is the Houston Perlmongers. So I'd like to invite Todd Rinaldo, please.
Oh, that's confusing. Yeah. How do I do this? Oh no. So hi, I'm Todd Rinaldo. I am a kind of co-organizer of Houston Perlmongers. We live way over there in Houston, about 15 hours by plane. That's about right. A little background on Perlmongers. It was started by Brian DeFoy, he wanted to, when he traveled around the country and around the world, he wanted to be able to contact people and meet fellow Perl programmers when he was in different cities. I'm actually not sure if that's Brian DeFoy, but that's apparently his Twitter handle. I did some archaeology because I didn't actually know how long Houston Perlmongers had been around. and was able to figure out that we've at least been around since 2002, but in truth, we probably formed when Wade, who's the primary organizer, came online in 2005. Wade is a recovering C, C++, and Java programmer, now programming Groovy, but still comes to all the Perl meetings, and it's still his first love. This is the best picture of Wade on the internet. He doesn't actually have any pictures of himself. And what we decided early on, we actually tend to have maybe 10 technical talks per year. We tend to have a few other meetings, but we decided early on that, you know, I'm there to learn something interesting and hang out with other Perl programmers, but you know, anything is interesting. Anything that's interesting to me, I'd love to have somebody present on it. And very early on, we had YAPC in Houston, so we did some of our meetings about that. But we've also had multiple meetings where this module was actually developed almost entirely with a group of Houston Perl mongers just sitting around hacking on device USB. I've also had more generic topics like DBI Catalyst, Moose, and DBIX class. We've tried to work on Perl 6 contributions. We've tried to do talks where we try to bring in new people that aren't maybe active Perl programmers with a, hey, come tell us what you're having trouble with, and we'll just sit around and talk and try to educate you on how to do better with Perl. We've had module talks where somebody will come in who's an expert with MYT Prof, or we've had talks on kind of off Perl topics. Everything's got a corresponding module, but these talks tended to be about these technologies like SVG, Bitcoin, RRD tool. We had an intro to Erlang, and I'm still recovering from that meeting because he basically threw us into the deep end of the pool, and some of us got out alive. It turns out one of the primary developers for Koha, which is a library system, moved to Houston, and she gave a talk on the Koha library system, which is entirely written in Perl. We've had people who have been in BioPerl come and talk to us about the project and the problems with it. We also have general Perl topics. Very often we try to do this every couple of years, where we will get new people to the mailing list, and we will try to bring them out to the meetings by talking to them about you know, more introductory topics. Often when you have a meeting on a more advanced topic, you tend to scare people away who are scared they're going to be in over their head. And the secret truth is that usually when we go to these meetings, we're in over our head on some of the topics we talk about too. So we'll have intro to Perl classes, but we've also done classes like we'll do a class on Perl one-liners with Perl-E and all of the different forms of Perl Pi and NPE. We had a talk, I really liked this one. We tended to just sit around the room and talk about each slide as it came up, and we would talk about code smells, and when you know, each of us saw that code, what our thought was about how this could go wrong. We have had multiple Perl Security talks. That's I've very much enjoyed those, done by JD, who spoke earlier yesterday. And then recently we've actually started, we've had trouble getting people to volunteer for talks, and we started doing lightning talks where people will just come and talk for 5 minutes about whatever, and very often we can get 3 or 4 volunteers who will talk about something. Usually is not 5 minutes, it's often much longer. So we don't always just have meetings where we sit around and talk. Sometimes we like to do social events. Well, it doesn't really look like that. It looks much more like this. And hopefully we don't have this guy as our waiter. And those talks tend to be good too, or those meetings tend to be good too, because we're just sitting around. We still tend to talk about technical topics. Sometimes we go, we'll talk about favorite books or whatever. It's just a good chance to, kind of get away from work, but still talk about stuff in your field, still expand your knowledge. Meeting is a big problem in Houston. So this is Houston, and you can get around Houston pretty easy. It's got good roadway systems, except the problem is that this is where everyone lives in Houston. And I live way up in the woodlands up top, but there are people who live way out. You see Sealy over on the left, and down in Pearland. And for instance, to get from the woodlands to the Pearland, it's about 90 kilometers, or sometimes depending on traffic, especially when the meetings are. It can be 1 to 2 hours to get around, and the problem, huh? It is too big. Texas is too big, and part of the problem is Houston. Because of the traffic, people will actually shift their hours. So some people are working 7 to 4, some people are working 10 to 7, and so you'll have people who come in early and then go home, and they're home by 5 or 6. They've had dinner, they're hanging out, and the meeting's in an hour, and they really don't want to drive downtown to go back to the meeting. And even people around the city, some people work down in NASA, which is down in the south area of town, and even they never drive into Houston. So we've tried to actually do remote meetings. We started a Perlmonger group where anybody can join around the world, and people will. We've mostly been doing Google Hangouts. Often they're recorded. And posted afterwards. There's a Google Groups link for it, which I don't have, but pretty easy to find. I think it's called Hangouts.pm. I started the idea, but actually Dallas-Fort Worth does a lot of their meetings online that you can join. Utah's done a few in Salt Lake City. For us, we tend to meet in Central Houston. Our first meetings were at the Houston Area League of PC users, but they started charging us for the space, so different people who are employees tended to get a space in their own building, mostly around Central Houston, and we just have to live with some people not being able to make it. We are always looking for new people to join. Whenever we have new people, we talk to them, we find out about them. It's been very interesting. We get people who are retired and just looking for something new and interesting to learn. We get a lot of people who do Perl all day long, but they do it at their house and really don't interact with other people. Just a very wide variety of people, and we're always welcome to meet any of them and have them back. So that's about all I got to say about Houston. Thanks. I'm not going to type.
Okay. I'm going to close this off and over. Okay. Right. Hey, look at that. Okay. One of the nice things about organizing this, other than hopefully not screwing it up, is that I get to talk about whatever I want. And one of the projects that I've been involved with the most, and the longest, is Dancer. Currently, I'm the project lead for Dancer 2, which is a rewrite of Dancer 1. It is now actually being released by Jason Chrome, and he's doing a really good job, and I couldn't be happier. And I have a lot to say about Dancer 2. I really do. I have so much, but I'm not going to do that. I actually have only one specific thing I'd like to focus on, and I was thinking a lot about this, and this is one thing that I really want to share that we've been doing. The plugin architecture of Dancer 2, it was fairly half-baked. There was a good idea, but the implementation was not completed. And we released Dancer 2 with a lot of things pretty solid, except for the plugin system. So it sort of worked, but not fully, not completely. There were some things you couldn't do that you could do before, and that was a bit of a loss. One major issue for a lot of developers was plugins being able to use and utilize other plugins, and that wasn't there. And when developers when developers complained and said, well, we actually do need this very much, we realized we had to fix it. But in order to fix it, we had to rewrite it completely from scratch. And it wasn't simple, but we got it done. It's now modeled after the Dancer, it's now modeled after Moose and role composition and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool, and it works. And it's really nice. There's a difference, though. The difference is that if you've ever used Dancer or Dancer 2, you know that everything is keywords. But with the new thing, the plugins are basically objects, full objects with instances. They have attributes, methods, the whole thing. The problem that we face, though, is that because of it, it is fundamentally different from the previous plugin architecture, which made it completely break and be incompatible with whatever plugins you currently have. Which means that if we release this, your modules, and all of your applications that are using modules completely break on the spot. So that was kind of a problem. We had two options on how to handle this. The first one was to release it the way it is. We release it the way it is, we basically break everything. So that wasn't such a good idea. But then we thought, okay, we have another idea. What we could do is release it under a different name. And for a while, the name that we used for this was Dancer 2 Plugin 2. And I think this also presented a problem. I don't know what it is. People don't like change. It's something psychological. And we've already had this transition from Dancer to Dancer 2. And we've heard a lot of, I haven't tried this, and not, I tried this and it failed. See, Dancer 1 and 2, they're almost completely the same, almost entirely the same, the syntax and behavior, but it's one character difference. And we've seen so many people who won't just add the 2, and that happens because people don't like change. It's very hard. I don't know why it is that way, but it's one character difference. I mean, it's hard. So we didn't want to do that either because we already suffered from this, and it didn't go well. So what we decided to eventually do is pick a third option. And our third option would be to introduce a compatibility layer that whenever you wrote the old code, it would translate that to the new code. And that was really hard to do. That was interesting. I learned a lot about how much I could twist and turn and move Perl around, which was awesome, but it's also really, really hard. But I mean, I think the trick with that was that we found a lot of edge cases when we did this. So you put in a compatibility layer and you say, when someone writes this function, I'm gonna do this thing. But then we realized people have done other stuff we haven't thought of and that we couldn't easily either know about or fix. So we had, I'm sorry, I'm a bit down. So we had a decision to make. And what we decided to do instead was to contact each and every plugin that we found. We basically searched all of CPAN, we searched all of GitHub, we found any Dancer plugin that we could find, and we ran all of our tests against that to see if it introduced any new edge cases that we didn't know about. And when we ran all these tests, we found some tests that were, some plugins that didn't have any tests. So we added some tests. So a bunch of plugins received tests from us because we wanted to make sure that they work with us. And then we had situations in which either the compatibility layer needed fixing, like, oh, you're doing this and it makes a lot of sense. We didn't support that, we should. Or the module, the plugin itself needed fixing because you're doing something that, I'm sorry, we either couldn't support or there's no reason or we shouldn't. So we had to make all of these changes, but running the tests on all of the plugins we found, it was way more than I thought. Then we coordinated the releases with every single plugin author, basically making sure they can release a version that we know works. And once we submitted changes to the module to make them work, or submitted changes to our code that it will work, we make sure that all of the relevant plugins were released again. That allows us to make sure that CPAN is safe, that if you download the latest version of the plugin, before we release the Dancer 2, it will work the same, and after we release the new plugin architecture, it will still work the same, and it won't break on you, and that was very important. And after that, we finally released the new version of Dancer 2. This took from the moment, I think it was from the moment that we wrote and finished writing the new plugin architecture, it took a year, like an entire year of doing this. And that was, I mean, the majority of the work was to allow modules to move to the new syntax and to also allow them to work on this new syntax. Now, most of this work was done by, and of course coordinate the releases, sorry. One of this work was done by one person, Peter Mottram, who also goes by CSP. I think a lot of people don't know him. He joined Dancer quite recently, and he led this entire thing. He maintained tickets, he created all of the relevant pull requests, he contacted all of the authors, he emailed everyone, he kept track of everything, he wrote a lot of the tests, he ran a ton of them over and over and over again. He scoured all of GitHub to find any plugin that is not released. He scoured it to find any repo of any plugin that is not mentioned in Meta CPAN. So it was a lot of work. And that actually leads me to something I wanted to discuss briefly, which is how do we make the Dancer community a place where we can have amazing people like Peter, or amazing people like Jason, or Jason. It's very hard to switch from Jason to Jason. How do we make it a place that is welcoming enough to bring in these people and all of the things that they can contribute? And it's amazing because Jason, his contributions at first were not even code. I'm not even sure how many lines of code Jason actually committed. He mostly did documentation patches, which we found incredibly important. So the way that we do this is we make an effort to be aware of and to attend to broken stairs. And I would like to explain what broken stairs are. Now, have you ever lived in a building where there was something broken? There was a broken stair that you could trip in, fall in. There was a pool of water that you could slip on. And everyone knew it was broken, but nobody fixed it. And people came to the building, they moved in, and you don't want them to slip on it, you don't want them to fall, and you don't want them to hurt themselves. So you tell them, hey, there's this broken stair here, and there's this puddle of water here, just be careful. And everyone is always very careful, and they work around the broken stairs, they work around the puddle of water, and all of these different stuff. I know I've lived in buildings like that. And the interesting thing is that we will talk about it a lot, and we will tell everyone about it, and we will warn them because we don't want them to hurt themselves. But we don't fix it. Nobody fixes the stairs. Nobody checks that the puddle of water is actually not there anymore and attend to it. And I think that sometimes people are like that. I think sometimes people are like that broken stair. There are some people that they harm, they hurt, they offend, they make it difficult for others. Sometimes it's emotionally, sometimes it's even physically. And sometimes this problem, the way these people behave, or this issue doesn't get addressed. And it doesn't get addressed because there might be a lot of reasons. Usually it's just easier to avoid these people, to work around them, just like to work around the broken stair. Because, you know, it's easier to warn everyone about them than to talk to these people or to make sure that we address their behavior in whatever form we're in. And, you know, it might be that these people are very powerful, and that's why it's really hard to do, and it's really scary to do, and it's very intimidating. Or maybe we just don't feel like it's something that we can do. But in the dancer community, we don't want to have broken stairs. We don't want to have to warn people to be careful of someone or their behavior. And we try to create an atmosphere where broken stairs are not okay. And it's obvious, and it's everyone's place to notice it and to address it. So we try to be aware of it, we try to address it. We have a standard of conduct, and we know how we want to treat one another. We know how we want to be treated. We have simple rules that I know for a lot of people are very hard to grasp, that it is that simple, but these are our rules. Abuse is always bad, and it is never, ever, ever tolerated in any form. And people think that this means, oh, well, now I can't say what I want to say. Now I can't provide criticism. Now I can't be myself. I will say one thing. If you look at abuse or a policy of no abuse and you're thinking, I can't be myself, that's a good thing. That means that policy should be there, because you might be an abusive person and you shouldn't participate. But for a lot of other people who have criticism, who have comments, who would like to discuss topics and be honest, we found that being honest and being direct is the easiest thing that we can do without being offensive. It is easier to be honest and to say what you want without defending. I'll give a few examples. I've written several sentences that provide examples on things that you can say when you really want to say something but you're not sure how. And oftentimes you'll hear people say that, you know, it's a struggle, like, to always be nice, because I want to keep it technical. I don't want to have to mask what I want to say. But usually these are people who are really, really offensive, and they try to mask it as that I'm just being technical. So just to be clear, saying you're stupid is not keeping it technical. And I've seen several people who say, and it's not necessarily Perl, right? This is a problem in IT in general. This is a problem in a lot of spaces that we participate in. This is a problem in some places of work and in various groups. And people think that, you know, I'm going to tell you you're stupid, and I'm just keeping it technical here. You being offended, you're just putting feelings into this, as if me saying you're stupid has nothing to do with my state of mind and my emotions. Thank you. Additionally, this is dumb is not an actionable sentence. I've seen multiple places on IRC. It's not, again, it's not just Perl. I'm in a lot of IRC channels and a lot of projects, and oftentimes you get to hear people say, oh, what you did is stupid. Well, stupid is not actionable. I cannot say, I can't unstupidify my code. Like, there is no metric for dumb. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can say a lot of things that are very accurate, and this is not one of them. I have examples. This is slow is very helpful. This will crash is incredibly helpful. This is buggy, and you can try and expand on why it's buggy, where it's buggy, how it's buggy. I think you're wrong is a very good point of criticism. It's fantastic. It is not offensive in any way to say, I think you're wrong. I get to hear a lot of people tell me that. And it's fine, because I am wrong a lot of the time. It's the sentence that we say in the dancer community quite often, because that's how we learn. One person says, okay, I think that's wrong. Or, I don't like this, and give a reason why you don't like this. I say that a lot. People give ideas, and I'll say, okay, I understand the idea. I don't know if I like this specific function implementation. I don't like it because this implementation has additional benefits. List them. It's very easy to do. If you have benefits, you can list them. You're forgetting about this is a very good way to say that there is another consideration here that is missed. It's not offensive to say that, and it's exactly what you want to say. It will break in some situations. I've had the person tell me that it's easier to tell someone that what they did is stupid than to say the sentence, it will break in some situations. And it's incredible that I had to say, but why can't you use those words? They can at least consider that, even if you don't have time to expand. And the sentence, I don't have time to review this, is, you know, it might be a bit sucky to hear, but it's very honest, and it's much more honest than just ranting and moving on because you don't have time. It's easier to just say, I'm sorry, I don't have time to review this right now. And it's honest, and it's direct, and it's not offensive in any way. And we always mask these words, which is what we want to say, with really hurtful things instead, which is really weird. And it's very, very non-technical. So it's actually simple. In the Nasriachi community, we treat each other with respect, and we expect to be treated with respect. That's our rule. That's how we roll, and we like it. We like it very, very much. Now, we try to create an environment at the same time that it's also fun to work in, and we also try to promote learning. So if you provide a patch to the answer, we don't care how. You can send in an email, you can send a diff, you can send a pull request. If you don't know how to send a pull request, we will help you create a pull request. If you don't know how to work with Git, we will help you learn how to work with Git, because we want to promote learning, and that's how we learn. I learned a lot from working on the plugin architecture, and we've had several people that we worked with them, and that's why you participate in stuff like the Google Summer of Code or the Outreachy program, which was originally named the Outreach Program for Women. So if you're interested in joining us, we would be happy to have you here. We would be happy to have any contribution you might want to provide. And I think that's all I had to say about the answer. Thank you. Now, after learning Java at university, which is the right cue card, Tina started with Perl 5.004. Is that right? That's amazing. No, this is amazing. On Solaris. That is amazing. I'm sorry, it's not. Okay. At a student job in 1998, and found out that programming can actually be fun. One anecdote that I can share is that we're sitting in a room, and it's hard to imagine two punks sitting and comparing music, and no one knows the bands that the other person is talking about. And it was a very interesting experience. And Tina tends to work on a lot of projects, and my deal with Tina was, I'd like you to come and talk about whichever one you want. Whichever group you're in, whichever project you want to talk about, and I'm very happy that she agreed. So please accept and welcome Tina Muller. Let me just see if, is it, that's not it. I think this is yours. Right?
Good morning. So, I don't see the same screen.
Yeah, you won't be able to because it's PDF. I'm sorry. So you're going to have to use the spacebar here.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't see it here. It's over there because it's not coming. So you're over there, you just don't see it. So if you just press space, it will work in a sec. Press space and here's it. There, okay. Here's the cursor over there. So you are here. You just don't see it on the screen. You can press space.
Okay. So I'm just going to talk about three little things about the German Perl community. So I'm a member of Berlin PM. We have meetings since 2002, and I joined around that time also. We have 118 subscribers on our mailing list and about 8 to 10 people on every meeting. We usually only do social meetings. We are pretty lazy actually, so we are just meeting at restaurants, and we are actually trying to find another location for every meeting, so we learn to know Berlin. Oh yeah, and we organized the German Perl workshop, so we don't do technical meetings usually, but we actually did the German Perl workshop. That was a really great experience, so if you have a Perl Monger group, and yeah, try it out and organize a Perl workshop. And the history of all of our meetings can be found on a Google map. That's very interesting to see where we tend to meet. Okay, yeah, that was Berlin PM. And there's also a Perl Community DE. So that's a forum for Perl. It started around 2003. It was previously on perl.de. But the owner just sold the domain because he wanted to get money, and the next owner wanted to earn some money with the domain, so we decided to move our whole community to a new domain. And yeah, it's going a little bit down, the number of threads, but I guess that's happening to other forums too. The board is running on Perl with the software we actually created in our community. I've been doing a lot of work on this, so it was kind of my long-term project where I try out new technologies. So the software, it has a couple of nice features. So you have threaded trees, actually, like on Reddit or Pomongs. You can immediately see which part of the thread are new. You cannot do this on Reddit or Pomongs. The headlines are colored by age, and you can actually navigate through the thread very easily. It uses some JavaScript, but it is usable without JavaScript, which you cannot say about a lot of sites anymore. And it's fast. But it's a hell to install. I never wrote any documentation and helper script, so it never saw the light of the day actually, except for our site. Maybe I'll continue to work on this. And the community actually started an IRC channel on ircperl.org called Perl.de. So anyone who speaks German or wants to learn German can join us. So it's quite different from on-topic channels, because any topic is on topic on our channel. So we just hang around all the day. And if you're programming and have a problem, you just throw in your question or anything, and someone will just come up and help you, or yeah, anything. So that's really a good thing. I think there's also a Perl FR channel. And so you might start a channel for your country to hang around. It's really nice because you also get maybe some updates, some news about new modules or anything. It's a good way to join the community. Yes. Not much traffic in our German channel, usually. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so, okay. The next person is a long-time contributor to a lot of projects. He is joined P5P early on, or early on-ish. He's been contributing to a lot of other projects. I get to work with him on a few of my own. And I'm very happy that he was willing to give this. It took some convincing, mainly because it's something that no one really wanted to do. It was very hard to get someone to agree to represent it. And the project I asked him to represent is the Perl 5 porters. And I'd like to invite Aaron Crane, please.
Okay, hello everyone. As Sawyer said, I'm here to talk about P5P, Perl 5 Porters, which is the mailing list where we manage the development of the Perl 5 core, and that isn't working. Sawyer.
Press space and it will move.
Okay, excellent, thank you. So, just to be clear, if you want to hear about, I'm not talking about the technical aspects of the work we do in P5P. I'm not talking about the new things in Perl 5.24. If you do want to hear about that, Sawyer's giving a talk on it tomorrow in this very room. and you'll be able to hear about all juicy details there. Instead, I want to focus on P5P as a community. So the big change we've had in the last year in P5P is that we've had a change of Pump King. And Pump King is the person who's responsible for the paperwork, and if need be, they have to make decisions. And we've had Ricardo Signes serving as Pump King for quite some time. He stood down, and Sawyer has graciously agreed to take over. Oops. There we go, Sawyer. Rick has presided over an unprecedented 5 stable releases of Perl. His track record there, I think, speaks for itself. He's also introduced this really important policy for how we behave on P5P. So this is something he said in 2012. I will call out unreasonable behavior to improve P5P's culture. And our policy is very simple. We require that everyone treat everyone else with civility, and we aim to treat each other with kindness. And that last bit was from Tim Bunce. Very grateful to him for that. We do have a small team of moderators to enforce this, and in a largely volunteer organization, the only way we can actually enforce this, if need be, is to apply a ban. We do have this policy that if people persist in behaving unreasonably, we will ban them. And I do believe very strongly that this is a very important measure, which is why I agreed to serve as one of the moderators. But I'm delighted to report that there have only been a handful of times when the moderators have needed to take action. But I wanted to talk about the community, and I think I'm going to focus on, I'm going to highlight a few of the contributions that some of our contributors have made. We do have an awful lot of contributors, literally hundreds of contributors every year. And there's far too many to talk about individually. So I'm just going to pick out a few people and talk about some of the work they've done. And of course, there's more work than, each person has done a lot more than I'm talking about, and there are a lot of people I just don't have time to mention. So this is just an overview, not a slight on anyone's work. So let's start with Carl Williamson. He's the list's resident Unicode expert. He's landed support for Unicode 8 and in 524, Unicode 9 very recently. He has done a huge amount of work on the Redux engine. He works on locales, all that sort of thing. Really prolific contributor. Tony Cook works on a wide variety of parts of the core. He's done quite a lot of work on some security issues lately. And he also does a lot of applying people's patches that get submitted. And the thing I love about this is I think it's great to give new contributors the idea that if they see something they want to improve in Perl, they can submit a patch and it will get applied. Right? I think this is very important for convincing people that they can make a difference. Brian Carpenter, he's been running a fuzzing tool called American Fuzzy Lot on the Perl core, and he's been finding dozens of bugs that could cause Perl to crash. And of course, every time you find one, you have to minimize it to a smallest possible test case and check it's not a duplicate of anything else. And this takes a lot of work, and obviously it's really valuable. This is one of the ways we get to maintain Perl's reputation for robustness, for battle-testedness. Karen Etheridge, a lot of you will know that she does a lot of work cutting releases of CPAN modules, and of course this carries over into P5P. She submits lots of patches to upgrade the modules that's bundled with core, including a lot of the all-important toolchain modules that allow you to install other modules. Dan Collins has recently started working on tackling our fairly long bug queue, joining long-term contributor Jim Keenan. So this is, it's amazing how many cases there are where we've got a bug in the database, bug in our RT queue, that's actually already been fixed, but it's not been marked as resolved. So having someone just go through and find these is a really valuable way of letting everyone else see what still needs to be worked on. Dave Mitchell, he's done an awful lot of wide-ranging work on really difficult things, whether that be performance, bugs, or new features, things that require seriously in-depth knowledge of the core. The thing he's been working on most recently is improving the performance and debuggability of core signatures. So this is a really valuable thing that was originally based on a proposal by Peter Martini and implemented by Zephram. Tux is, he is one of the people who does regular smoke testing of Perl as it's in development, including on some less widely used systems like HPUX. And he's also, for a very long time, been our expert on Configure, which is the heart of Perl 5's portability to Unix systems. Last but not least, Steve Hay. Again, he does a lot of wide-ranging contributions, but at the moment he seems to be our resident maint releaser. So he does point releases of stable versions of Perl. And at the moment, he's in the middle of 2 parallel simultaneous releases of 5.22 and 5.24 to deal with some important security issues. But as I say, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are literally hundreds of contributors, and I obviously don't have time to thank them all individually, but I wish I did, and perhaps we could give them a hand. So, in the past, P5P has had a reputation as being a haven of ill-natured arguments, and this is why I think this astonishing roster of people who've contributed to P5P just in the last year is an indication that that's no longer deserved. And I think I'd like to thank Rick once again for making P5P a place where we can cooperate productively and with civility to make Perl as good as it can be, and to make newcomers feel welcome. So if you are interested in working on Perl, if you see something you'd like to improve in Perl, in the documentation, if you'd want to report a bug, fix a bug, discuss a proposal, please come along. We will aim to make you feel welcome. Come and join us. Thank you.
All right, a quick update. We are, we kind of started late, so we're pushing everything a bit forward. So in about 10 minutes, the rest of the talks will start. So thank you for understanding. So the person I wanted to bring in last, unfortunately, ran out just to make sure that everyone's in sync, not to start the talks that you want to attend. I actually get to have some of my closing comments. And so I'll create a blank screen here because I just want to say a few words. And Vim won't clear it until I do this. Okay. So until the next person, which will be the last speaker, shows up, I just want to say a few more words, which I really wanted to end up with. I've recently become the pumpkin, and people think that it means that I'm making a lot of technical decisions about Perl 5 all day long, and I come in and say what will happen and all of that, which is just, it's actually not true. It's pretty ridiculous. Perl 5 is developed by a group of very bright individuals, which Aaron spoke about, which is the Perl 5 porters. I try to make it easier for them to do their job. So that means that I facilitate discussions, I mediate conversations. Sometimes there are conflicting ideas, and then I might have to come in and make a decision and decide on what direction to take. But most of the day, it's basically doing a lot of paperwork. One of the goals that I've had is to make the core developer community, which is what we refer to as P5P, a better place for working in the Perl 5 core. And to make it more welcoming, to grow it, to provide room for more hackers to participate in developing and improving the language. Now, the proper standards of conduct were already instituted by Ricardo Cygnus. There is moderation, some by Aaron Crane, and I'm very thankful for that. But there's another important aspect in a community, in my opinion, that is very important that we often miss, which is inclusiveness. And one easy thing that we tend to forget when we work on code is people and their experiences. The differences in experiences that people have is something we often neglect. And these different people have different backgrounds, which leads to different skills, different understandings. We don't all share the same experiences. We don't all have the same past. even that broken stair analogy that I talked about earlier, it's somewhat flawed because, you know, I have friends that cannot walk upstairs, you know, and that's not always the right analogy and the right example. That an example which I took also from an interesting blog called Provocracy, and I think it deserves some credit. So we assume that we all take the same path to reach to where we are, but that's not actually true. Some of us have clear advantages that others do not. I want to take me, for instance. I'm lucky enough that my parents had enough money to put me in high school. And even though it's hard to believe, I did graduate. And fairly well. But I always had access to a computer. I have a lot of friends who never did. I know people who still don't, and they get to use computers in certain situations, but they don't have one at home. And we assume that the fact that I'm here is because I'm just smart. And I know it's a shock to some of you, probably not to most. I'm not that smart. I'm not. I just had a lot of opportunities. I had a lot of advantages that other people who are brighter, smarter, more intelligent, more sophisticated, more capable, more able, they didn't have. So that's why I'm here. And I think those opportunities that I've had, and the opportunities that we all have, they tend to blind us. And we attribute who we are to how we are. Like it's just me. And it has nothing to do with the advantages that I've had in life and the opportunities that I've had. And I think that recognizing these advantages in life that brought us to where we are right now and to our current place, and understanding the differences in experience that other people have, it helps us build a community that is open, that is welcoming, that is inclusive. And I think this results in the end in a bigger community, a stronger community, with people who are able to tackle more issues. And we can just make things better. We can avoid burnout, which is very, very common. It's very common to burn out in development, in community, in programming, in IT in general, in administration, in whatever field you have here. Burnout is very common, and we can avoid that if we are able to be more open and accepting of others. And I hope to take this lesson that I have learned myself and to try and apply it and embrace it in more and more communities and projects that I'm active in. Something that I really wanted to share, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to share this. Now, I would actually like to bring in the last speaker. She is the organizer, or the organizer's organizer of this conference. She has been leading Cluj PM for a very long time. It's probably one of the most awesome places I've been to because I've made a lot of friends here, and I was always greeted here with care, like actual love, like family. And that's why I got to come here so many times, and it's been a pleasure. And I hold Amalia as a dear, dear friend, and I'm very happy that she will come and talk to you for a few minutes about Cluj PM.
Okay, I'll try to be really brief, not to take away from his time for coffee. Who here doesn't recognize this fellow? Okay, it works. So who here doesn't recognize this little fellow? It's the mascot of Cluj PM. It's the symbol of Transylvania, legend says. I'll be brief, as I mentioned, not to take away precious time for coffee. I just wanted to let you know a few words about Cluj PM. We were formed back in 2012, 4 years. And in our 4th year, we get to organize YAPC Europe, which is a massive honor. And thank you all for being here. We all started thinking about forming a group when our technical people came back from YAPC Europe in Riga, I suppose. Horia, do you approve of this? He's the technical mastermind behind everything Cluj PM does. So huge thanks for doing this. During the 4 years, we had amazing guest speakers. Actually, I'm seeing Dave Cross now. He should have been the first guest speaker ever. So you still owe us one. FYI. Wendy and Liz, I'm seeing here. We had Larry Wall. We had Sawyer so many times. Curtis Poe, Riba Sushi, Matt Trout, Mark Keating, all wonderful people. And we're really looking forward to see everyone back at our meetings. A few things that probably were amazing to other members of other communities were the ratio between male-female programmers and Cluj PM members. It's basically close to 50-50 due to the we have amazing women programmers. I guess, yes, applause, please. It's most probably due to women getting into computer science universities, which we have two technical universities which produce a large amount of programmers. Cluj is known to have a lot of programmers, about 10K, so a lot of them are women. Another thing that was particular was the large number of attendees. Other members told us. We have an average of around 80 attendees. The maximum was 155 when Larry Wall was here, so it was a peak. Thank you again for that. And basically we meet twice a year. We have all our meetings in English, so whenever you are around, feel free to pop in. We'll be welcoming you. Basically, that was it. For any other questions, I'm around all day. Find me. We'll talk more about Cluj PM, about communities, and I'm really looking forward to get some more ideas from you. Thank you.
All right, so that's it for the state of the Velociraptor. I would like to thank you for your attention. I would like to thank you for coming. I would like to thank you for listening. I would like to implore you to join a community, join a project, create your own. And I would like to implore you to come here next year on stage and share it with everyone else. Thank you very much.